by the word of Jehovah. Israel by the will of the Lord. Israel by divine right. Israel calling us home. Israel by divine right. Our God is calling us home.
Every October for the last 12 years, there has been a unique celebration of support for the State of Israel. The International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, has coordinated the gathering of some 80 nations for the Feast of Tabernacles. They march through the streets of Jerusalem and gather together for praise and worship on the hills of Qumran. For many, this has become a foretaste of the great gathering of all believers in the second coming, when the King himself will rule from Jerusalem. Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin welcomed this most recent gathering on their opening night of a week-long celebration.
Love the state of Israel.
I met with the founder of the International Christian Embassy, Jan Willem van der Hoeven, at this headquarters building in Jerusalem, where he shared his views on some vital matters regarding Israel. But first I asked him to give us his personal background.
Yeah, I'm the spokesman of the International Christian Embassy. I'm originally from Holland. A friend we were from Corrie ten Boom, who gave us a tremendous example also in her relationship and love for the Jewish people. And I think many of the Christians that watch your program would know Corrie ten Boom from Hiding Place. Sure. So it was burned into our heart that God had never given up his love and purpose with the Jewish people. Actually, the Hiding Place, and I say this also encouragement for all the Christians who pray for the restoration of the Jewish people. The Hiding Place was in a room where for 100 years, even the great-grandfather of Corrie ten Boom prayed for the restoration of Israel. And in that same room later, 18 Jews found their hiding place as they tried to escape from the Nazi scourge. So that was at the birth, this love for the Jewish people, when we opened up the International Christian Embassy. And now it has developed over the years. This was the 13th feast that made it possible for, I would say, close to 6,000 Christians to come from 80 nations. And we feel to give them first the experience of the desert, as the Jews came up from the desert to the Promised Land. And so when the great opening night will come, where the Prime Minister will address these lovers of Israel, having come from the east, the north, the west, and the south, from the uttermost parts of the earth. We had here yesterday 2 pastors, one from Solomon Islands and one from Papua New Guinea. The man was weeping. He says, "Oh God, when last time I was in Jerusalem, I prayed with all my heart, bring me once more back." I mean, the man probably has no money. I don't know how they get here. Sometimes we help them financially. But I heard yesterday with the Qumran that somebody was nearly moved to tears to see Chinese, even from the mainland of China. An Indonesian group, they're Catholics, they're Protestants. And what we have done when we opened up the International Christian Embassy, I'm so thankful we did not call it the International Charismatic Embassy or International Protestant Embassy. But we say from our side, Israel is not held by a flimsy little pro-Israel group that goes overboard on Israel and sees nothing else. If it is true that the head of the body of his church is the Lord, the King of Israel, I want the whole body to embrace this nation in love and comfort, for it is the only staying power that Israel can depend on, now that the last nations, even the United States, are rapidly falling away.
It seems to me there has been some kind of an unholy alliance between Islam and Christianity.
There was a major editorial a few days ago in the Jerusalem Post. Just think of the shame to Jesus Christ. churches on an anti-Israel crusade.
Yes, we discussed it.
Expressing that Christian prelates, and I think the reason, I'm happy to say this on your program, Zola, because even Jewish people, even secular Jewish leaders in America, do not understand what is happening. There is such evil, such hatred against the Jewish people that today the Palestinians are using their church positions. I said it to a friend of the Pope as I met him in Switzerland. I thought, Lord, how do I explain what has happened to the Middle East church in many parts? And I said to him, you must understand, otherwise he might have thought, well, he's not a Catholic, that's why he's against. So I did not want to come over as an anti-Catholic. I just wanted to explain the situation as it has occurred. So I said, you must understand, and this is a man that can phone straight to the Pope, that the major part of the Christian church has been hijacked in the Middle East by the Palestinians. Sabah, the Catholic patriarch, is a Palestinian. Bishop Samir Kafiti from St. George's Anglican Cathedral is a Palestinian. Philip Habib, the Secretary General living in his office in Cyprus, the Secretary General of the Near East Council of Churches is a Palestinian. One of the Lutheran major figures here in the Redeemer's Church is a Palestinian. The Bishop Emeritus of the Anglican Church in Amman is a friend of Arafat, member of the PLO executive, Elias Khoury, who when he was still Anglican minister here in the West Bank, took 2 terrorist women to the British consulate and later to the supermarket to bring explosives so that in the explosions 1 or 2 people were killed, and he expelled himself, ran away to Amman, and apparently for this wonderful Christ-like loving deed, he was made bishop of the Anglican Church in Amman. Now, if these priests, who are all Palestinians, are using their church position to do politics with the robes of Christ, and to have here, for instance, Bishop Tutu came here, invited and hosted by Bishop Shamir Kafiti. When they finally came to the Christmas scene at the fields of Ephrata, 8,000 Palestinians were waiting for them with all the cameras of the world. And they had done this because apparently they had been to the PLO and they says, we will use Christmas to show the world that as bad as the South African whites are to the poor black African church, that's how the Israelis are treating us poor Palestinian Arabs. When Bishop Kafiti and Bishop Tutu from South Africa were coming for the Christmas Eve ceremony, and they were all chanting a little different song than the song that the angels sang, Peace on Earth. Because when the 2 bishops came with the cameras of the world glowing, they heard this chant, P-L-O-A-N-C, Israel no, A-N-C, P-L-O, Israel no. That was the Christmas story that went out under the guidance of the 2 bishops to the world. If that's Christianity, the Jews say, thank you very much.
Pastor, you take my breath away. I just didn't know things were that bad. Are real born-again believers being duped into this?
There was a wooing of the evangelical element in the American church to come to Cyprus to meet their counterparts in the Middle East Council of Churches that are often more liberal oriented in their biblical views, and cannot stand, for instance, what the International Christian Embassy and millions of Christians, till Billy Graham, who made a wonderful film about the restoration of Israel, which he called His Land, that cannot stand what these millions of Bible-believing evangelicals believe about Israel. So they realized we need to bring the evangelicals over to our pro-Palestinian view. And there was a conference with that purpose in mind in Cyprus. They did not come yet to an agreement, but what they try to do is they use, just imagine, they say Jesus was a Palestinian prophet murdered by the Jews.
Oh.
Can you get more anti-Semitic? So Jesus cannot even anymore be a Jew. He is a Palestinian. Jesus was not born in Bethlehem, Judea, but he was born in occupied territory as a Palestinian. Incredible. If this stupidity comes from the mouths of Christians, there is now a Christian theologian here who wrote, Reverend he wrote a book about the intifada from heaven, trying to show that when Jesus came down to break the yoke of the world and of the Roman Empire, he was the first heavily intifada activist.
Oh my God. I know theologians in Dallas that think this way, but I think most Americans just don't realize what's happening over here.
My wife is an Arab Christian, lover of the Lord and of Israel. When the Lord moved into her life, he said, "You cannot love me and hate my people." She was brought up never to have a Jewish girlfriend. She was never to have a Jewish girlfriend. But when the Lord came into her heart, the first thing he said to her, to this Arab Christian girl, "You cannot love me and hate my people." And I've said many times to Christians, you would not have put it the way Jesus did. You would have said you cannot love Christ and not love the Jews. Nice, objective. Jesus did not say, and love the Jews. He said, and love my people. That's the difference. Are they the Jews for you? Or are they my people? And we know, as people who have lived here for more than 20 years, that the Muslims, Elias Freys, the mayor of Bethlehem, the town where Jesus was born, knows it if you would ask him privately, that the Muslims all over the streets of the Holy Land were singing during the Six-Day War, during the Yom Kippur War against Israel. We shall fight on Saturday and then on Sunday. We shall fight on Saturday and then on Sunday. What did they mean? Ask Elias Freys. Ask the Arab Christians if there would be no more Jews, where they will all be pushed into the sea or raped or killed on the streets of Tel Aviv and Jaffa, because that's the dream of most of these Muslims that are being fathered by Khomeini and by Iraq and by all the Muslim fundamentalists that are now threatening from Mubarak to King Hussein the regimes of those who are still called moderate. I says, if they will finally get their way and rape the women and kill the Jews, and we have another Holocaust, what will happen to you Arab Christians? Ask it to the Copts in Egypt, who are, I heard it now, that the Shenada, the patriarch of the Copts, went to Mubarak and said, please do something, our Christians are being killed, the Egyptian Christians. And Mubarak says, as long as you don't tell it publicly what is happening, I will help you. But the moment you will speak publicly what is happening to the Christians in Egypt, I cannot help you anymore. The Christians are dead afraid. Is that the reason that the Middle East Council of Churches is joining with those that have destroyed the fruits of the Apostles' age? Go to Antioch, go to Ephesus. I went in Ephesus in Turkey, one of the richest churches in the history of the New Testament. Nothing is left. Wherever Islam came, it destroyed most of the fruit of the early apostles. More than 1 million Christians, Armenian Christians, were washed away by Islam in the time of Turkey. And now to see Christians going to Muslims to put another dagger in the only nation that could care both for Muslims and for Christians. And I know exactly what I say, because the Israelis are so loyal and tolerant that whereas 39 synagogues were destroyed under Jordanian Muslim occupation from 1948 till 1967, 39 synagogues in the east city of Jerusalem or in the old city. Today there is freedom for Muslims to go to their mosque. The Israelis who read in their own Old Testament, tooth for tooth, no, they did not destroy one synagogue, one mosque. Every Muslim is free to worship in his own place in Israel. Every Christian, whether he wants to go to the Holy Sepulchre or to the Garden Tomb, is free to go. And every Jew, finally, barred for 20 years under Jordan occupation, can go to his Wailing Wall. And you would think the whole world would say, the only ones that can preserve the peace in the Middle East, at least in the Holy Land, are the very people that are despised.
From the lofty heights of Mount Hermon to the lowest spot on earth, From the bustling streets of Jerusalem to the tranquil shores of Galilee, from the crystal clear waters of En-Gedi to the stark beauty of an arid wilderness, the Holy Land, a place of fascinating contrast that will enrich your life, historically, spiritually. See the Holy Land with Zola Levitt. For more information, call her right today.
What would you say to a professor in Dallas who says, well, these Jews are not the Jews of prophecy, they're spiritually disobedient, conceivably they'll be driven off the land?
God said more than 700 times, so it must have been quite important for him, that the Jews would come literally from all the countries where they have been scattered. If the church, and I'm speaking unto evangelicals, says the church is Israel, then I says, brother, don't give me that crap. If you don't really do what you say you believe, if you believe that you are the Israel and the Jews are just bungling there, no more historic purpose with God, no more biblical significance, then please pack your cases and come to Israel. If you really believe you're Israel, I want you to see, because the Bible says, and they will come from the north and from. If you think you're the only Israel, I want to see you come. Sure. Bavakasha. Come here. But you cannot say we are Israel and stay in all these nations and then say that the Jews who do come, that they are not the Jews, but you are. So if you are, come to Israel, live in Tel Aviv, live in Haifa. I mean, incredible. This comes from the mouths of Christians. The Jews in all their suffering and all their agony, they may not know who their Messiah is, but they have come here driven by anti-Semitism. As one rabbi said to me, when the Jew sees the cross, he shudders. He thinks of the Crusaders. He thinks of the Christian Germans that pushed him into the gas chambers. And even if we say in America, well, but they were not real Christians, I say sometimes we Christians have no more love for Israel than that it's an exciting tablet to get high on prophecy while we read our prophetic books on Israel and wait on our easy rapture. That's how far our love for Israel goes. I says, the Jews see right through our shallowness. They says, what do you really feel for us? And the moment I see that God says, in a moment of wrath, I have hidden my face from you, but with everlasting mercies I will bring you. When I heard that 15,000 Ethiopian Jews came home in one Shabbat, and now daily the Jews are coming from the north, and the Bible says they shall come from the north, and they shall come from the south, and they shall come from the west, and Israel is here from 100 different nations on the earth. What can I see as an evangelical? What can I say? I still have to say it's nothing to do with the Bible. I've sometimes said to the people, wouldn't it be nice for the Christian cynics if they had only come back from 5 countries? From America, from 5 only. And that the people, the cynics, could say, well, I thought you dear Bible-believing folks said that they will come from all the nations where they're scattered, and they're only from 5. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they for once had one thing that would disprove the Bible? When the Bible says all the nations will stumble over Jerusalem.
Minister, you're a Gentile, always a lover of Israel. I want to clarify because I could see Americans saying, oh, well, you've got to expect an Israeli to talk that way. You're not an Israeli. You're an outsider who loves Israel because you love Jesus. Is what we see going on here, Jews coming back to the land, 4 million Jews, a fulfillment of prophecy?
You know, in this very room, a wonderful apostolic man who came to the Feast of Tabernacles, which he was there yesterday too, with about 50 or so Mexican Christians that had used all their savings to make that one trip to the Holy Land of their life. And they came to the Feast of Tabernacles, they saw all the wonderful praises of all these nations, and then he took them to Jericho. And he explained what God did to the walls of Jericho through prayer and praise. And he said to me here in this room, and I became so thankful, because for years I have prayed in the name of the Lord Jesus against the power and principality of Islam. As I know, unless that's bound, there will be no peace between the Arabs and the Jews. That's the great troublemaker that drives the Arabs to put such swords today while they say, Allah Akbar, deep into the backs of ladies, men and women and children. And he was here and he said to me, as I was explaining at that side of Jericho, what God did through prayer and praise, I suddenly saw a wall in front of me. Huge, thick and high. And God spoke. The wall that you see is the wall of Islam. As surely as I have brought down the wall of communism in all of East Europe, I am determined to break down this wall. And then he saw, and it for any Christian that has any feeling, what can I do? Okay, he speaks all these truths, but what can I do? Because I'm a very pragmatic, practical person. I want to know what can I do, not just what's the truth about a thing. I believe he will be quickened to know that he can do something if he cleans up his life so that he can become a holy intercessor for God. And he saw this wall and he saw a crack. And when the Persian Gulf War came, God said, the crack you saw in the wall of Islam was my battle against Saddam Hussein. And I got so rejoicing in my heart because I knew that towards the end of the time of waiting that the Americans gave Saddam Hussein from August till January, he became more and more a faithful Muslim. He called himself the most faithful servant of Allah. When I was in America, I saw on CNN somebody shooting off a rocket, and he wrote in chalk on it, Saddam, if Allah doesn't listen to you, try Jesus. And but there was something that I heard now from a priest in Jordan. He said to me, never did the Muslims were so weak on the Ramadan fast as the months of Ramadan after the Persian Gulf War, because they felt let down by Allah. It was the first break in how can this be? If this is the most faithful servant of Allah. Saddam Hussein even said that he had a vision of Muhammad. He went 5 times and he prayed, and he was completely obliterated with his military power. Then many Muslims begin to say what I'm saying to them. If you do go on in trying to curse yourself by stirring up this jihad all over the Middle East against Israel, I prophesy to you. You are going to see the same God's judgment that was on Saddam Hussein, upon Damascus, upon all of your cities, till you learn that God has brought the Jewish people back, not to curse you, but to bless you, if you will only let them have that little piece of land that is only 160/40th of what you have. The Arabs got 640 times more land than the little piece given to Isaac. Small as Vermont or New Jersey. And the Arabs from Tunisia, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Iraq got 640 times more, which is twice the size of the United States. If the Arabs will say, God, thank you for what you gave us. Thank you for the oil and the wells it has brought us. Help us to accept our brother Isaac in the land you gave to them. But that will only happen when we Christians pray for the peace of Jerusalem and cut off this principality of jihad by true intercessory prayer.
Well, what an interview. That day at the Christian Embassy, I was struck, and I think you could see that. I wasn't acting. What a powerful preacher, and what a sincere message right from his heart. You know, most interviews look good on television because you really only use small pieces of them. In other words, to sit with a man for an hour and you use 3 minutes or 6 minutes, the best of what he says, the best light, the best vocabulary, the best show of the host asking questions, so on, and put that together. And I mean, we make television like that too. You only have so much time on the air. But I'll tell you what, we had a lot of trouble editing this, man. You just don't, it's all the best, you might say. And so we used virtually all that he said. We just trimmed the edges to make it fit our format. But basically, you're hearing Pastor Vander Hoeven on the subject of his life, the sermon for which he was born. And I'm glad you could hear it. And by the way, we're going to continue it next week. I don't want to interrupt him. And so next week's program, we will conclude. So be sure to watch that. And gosh, if you have friends with some doubts about Israel or whatever, get them around the set and watch what this man says and get these videos. We've been offering the videos through the series. And by the way, we had offered 10 videos. Now it's going to be 12. That is, we have an extra show of Pastor Vander Hoeven and the music. People have been ordering it. We're going to make a program with the music, as we sometimes did in the past with the scenery of Israel from the series and all the songs. Our offer tonight, and we'll keep the price the same on the video, so there won't be any extra charge, but you'll have 12 programs instead of 10. But tonight I want to offer our Divine Right package. That is the booklet, Israel's Right to the Land, and the Pray for the Peace of Jerusalem bumper sticker, which everybody loves and is really quite nice. Our artist designed it. And the map of the Holy Land. It's a $10 package, and I think you will enjoy it. $10 for that. We'll also put in the Levitt Letter subscription in our catalog. There's no charge for those things. So just ask for the Divine Right package and you'll get all that. It's $10. And remember the funds, folks. That's what really pays our way. That is how we can go on location and talk to people like this where they are with our crew. I thank you for your constant support. And Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Israel by the word of Jehovah, Israel